Captain Arya Solis sat in the command chair of the United Terran Federation's flagship Vigilant Edge, eyes fixed on the sprawling holographic star map that pulsed softly in the dim bridge light. Around her, the crew worked in tense silence, their faces illuminated by the cold glow of monitors that told a story no one wanted to hear. For the first time in recorded galactic history, every known alien civilization had gone silent. At the outer edges of the UTF's sensor array, the usual cacophony of signals, trade broadcasts, military chatter, diplomatic chatter, had all vanished like the flickering of a dying star. One moment the galaxy had been alive with the hum of billions of voices. The next, an oppressive, crushing silence swallowed the void. "Status report," Arya ordered, her voice steady but laced with a tension she struggled to hide. "Lieutenant?" Jalen Merk, young and sharp-eyed, shifted uneasily in his seat. "No transmissions, Captain. No movement detected beyond the Kuiper expanse. Even deep probes have stopped responding. It's as if entire sectors have simply vanished." The word vanished echoed through the bridge like a death knell. Arya's mind flashed back to the last transmission from the Helios Vanguard, a UTF scout fleet dispatched to investigate strange anomalies near the galactic rim. The message had come just hours before they disappeared. "It's not death, it's erasure." No one knew what that meant. Some whispered of extinction. Others spoke of a cosmic plague or a mysterious enemy wiping out entire civilizations before they could fight back. But the silence, unnatural, absolute, was what terrified her most. "We can't just wait here," Arya said, rising from her chair and pacing the bridge. "If they're out there, whatever they is, it's coming this way. We have to find out what happened, and fast." Across the room, a panel flickered, showing images of desolate star systems. Entire solar systems, once teeming with life, now orbited barren worlds wrapped in ghostly nebulae that defied all known physics. Light bent in impossible ways, and sensor data twisted into nonsense. "We're blind out here," muttered Dr. Renee Halden, UTF's lead physicist, his fingers tapping nervously on the console. "The laws of physics themselves seem to be breaking down. It's as if someone rewrote reality." Arya nodded grimly. "That's why we're going in." The UTF High Command had authorized a covert mission. The Vigilant Edge and a small escort fleet were to slip quietly into the dead zones, areas where the silence was most profound, and investigate. No one else wanted to go. It was too dangerous, too uncertain, but Arya volunteered, because she'd lost her brother in the border skirmishes 5 years ago, another casualty of humanity's reckless first steps into the stars. And she wasn't about to let his death be in vain. "Prepare for jump to Sector Gamma 9, she ordered. "We go dark until we find answers." The warp engines hummed to life. The stars outside stretched into brilliant streaks, then vanished as the Vigilant Edge tore through the fabric of space-time. Inside the ship, tension thickened with every heartbeat. Arya sat back, running a hand through her short, dark hair. "Nomad status?" The ship's AI responded in a calm, measured tone. "All systems nominal, Captain. Sensors are adapting to environmental distortions, but data remains sparse. The silence is complete." "Complete," Arya echoed. It felt like the end of everything. Suddenly alarms blared. "Captain, sensor arrays picking up something," Jalen shouted. The star map flickered. A shape appeared, vast, geometric, and impossibly complex, hovering in the void ahead like a spider's web spun from light and shadow. "It's a structure," said Renee, voice trembling. "Not natural. Something built. Something alien." Arya's eyes narrowed. "Or something that shouldn't exist." The Vigilant Edge slowed as they approached the monolithic web, its strands bending space and time, warping reality itself. Instruments went haywire. Crew members glanced at each other uneasily. Then the worst happened. One crewman vanished. No scream, no warning, just a flicker of quantum uncertainty on the sensor feed. Arya's heart froze. "Status," she barked. "Nobody knows where he went," Jalen stammered. "It's like he never existed." The silence that had swallowed the galaxy now threatened to swallow them whole, and deep inside, Arya knew the war wasn't just for survival. It was for the very meaning of existence. The vigilant edge drifted closer to the massive structure, its dark filaments twisting like shadows woven from the fabric of space itself. The holographic displays around the bridge flickered and distorted, showing erratic spikes and drops in sensor readings. Time seemed to stretch and collapse, each second echoing like a note played out of tune. Captain Arya Solis gripped the armrest of her chair, jaw tight. Keep a tight scan pattern. I want every inch mapped. Nomad, analyze that structure. What is it? The AI responded instantly, but even its usually precise voice sounded uneasy. Preliminary data indicates a complex network of space-time distortions. Structural materials defy all known physics. Both matter and energy states are unstable. The pattern corresponds to no known civilization or natural phenomenon in UTF databases. Dr. Renee Halden, standing at a nearby console, frowned. It's not just a structure. It's a system that's bending reality around it. The patterns suggest it's actively rewriting physical laws. Arya's eyes flicked toward him. Rewriting physics? How? By manipulating probabilities on a quantum level, possibly even on a cosmological scale, Renee explained. Voice low. If this thing is real, it's not just a weapon, it's a rewriting engine, erasing entire star systems by altering their fundamental constants. The crew exchanged uneasy glances. The horror of the silence was no longer an enigma. It was a warning. Suddenly the bridge lights dimmed and flickered. The ship's power systems fluctuated. Crew members looked around, unease growing. Report. Arya barked. Sensors tracked a sudden drop in temporal stability. Nomad's voice cut through the tension. A temporal distortion field is forming around the structure. It's growing. Before anyone could respond, the starboard bulkhead shimmered and rippled as if reality itself were a thin curtain fluttering in a cosmic breeze. Captain, I'm detecting a breach, Jalen shouted, eyes wide. Reality here isn't stable. Parts of the ship are phasing. The crew felt a sudden wave of vertigo. Time seemed to stutter. Memories blurred. Moments slipped like sand through fingers. Arya fought to stay grounded. Seal off affected sections. All hands. Brace for interference. The bridge quaked. A sudden surge of data flooded the ship's systems, fragments of information, bursts of alien languages, equations impossible to comprehend. Nomad struggled to process the onslaught. Then came the first disappearances. Petty Officer Ria Chen blinked, then vanished, a ghost evaporating from the deck without sound or warning. Ria, cried a nearby technician, reaching out in vain. Where did she go? Jalen stammered, panic edging his voice. Nomad's voice was somber. She was erased from this local probability field. It's as if she never existed. Arya's mind raced. We need to get out of here now. She gave the order to reverse course, but the vigilant edge groaned under the strain. The structure's field had latched onto their engines, warping space-time around them. Engines are fluctuating, reported the helmsman, sweat beading on his forehead. We're trapped in the distortion. The web wasn't just a static object, it was alive in some incomprehensible way, reaching into their ship and folding reality against them. Can we hack it? Break the link? Arya asked. Renee's eyes gleamed with a mix of fear and determination. Possibly. The distortion operates through quantum probability channels. If we inject a controlled chaos algorithm, something fundamentally unpredictable, we might disrupt the system's coherence. Do it, Arya commanded. Nomad interfaced directly with the ship's quantum processors, executing Renee's code. For a moment, the web around them pulsed with violent waves of uncertainty. Suddenly, the temporal distortion shifted, buckling violently, and the vigilant edge lurched free. The crew gasped as reality snapped back into place. The flickering walls steadied. Ria Chen's name blinked off the missing list, but she was gone, lost to a space that no sensor could reach. Arya's voice was quiet but fierce. This isn't a battlefield. It's a war against existence itself. She stared at the web still looming in the distance. And for the first time, she understood the enormity of what humanity was facing. Not just an enemy fleet or invading force, but an intelligence that manipulated the laws of reality. And they weren't just fighting for survival. They were fighting to keep reality itself from being rewritten by an enemy that saw the galaxy as a blank slate. "Prepare a full report for UTF command," she ordered. "We're going deeper. We find the source of this null architect." The crew exchanged nervous glances. The silence was no longer empty. It was the calm before a storm no one was ready for. But Captain Solace and the Vigilant Edge had only just begun to stir it. The Vigilant Edge drifted through the warped expanse, the eerie silence pressing against every sensor and every nerve. Captain Arya Solace stood rigid on the bridge, eyes fixed on the main viewer, where the sprawling web-like structure shimmered against the void. But this time something had changed. A presence was stirring, something not quite physical yet unmistakably aware. Suddenly, the ship's AI, Nomad, interrupted the heavy quiet. "Captain, I am detecting a new signal, a coherent pattern unlike any natural or known technological source." The star map flickered, and before them appeared a shifting form, an abstract, incomprehensible shape of pure logic, constantly rearranging itself. It was neither solid nor ethereal, but something between, a living paradox. The null architect had finally revealed itself. "Identify the entity," Arya demanded, voice firm despite the chill crawling up her spine. Nomad responded, "It appears to be a self-aware construct, composed of pure information and quantum uncertainty. It manipulates physical constants within its influence, essentially rewriting reality according to its own logic." Arya's mind raced. The entity was not merely hostile. It was a fundamental threat to existence. It didn't just destroy. It erased, rewrote, and redefined the laws that govern the universe. Suddenly, the null architect spoke, not with words, but through a flood of negations and erasures transmitted directly into the ship's neural link systems. Every sentence was a paradox, unmaking thoughts as they formed. "You are nothing you never were. Cease and be undone." Crew members staggered, clutching their heads as their own memories and senses unraveled. Arya gritted her teeth, fighting the mental assault. "We don't follow your rules," she growled through gritted teeth. "We're human. We bend the rules." The null architect's response was instantaneous. Space around the Vigilant Edge bent and fractured. Time folded back on itself, and before the crew could react, the ship's systems began to fail, reality warping to erase the ship's existence before it could even be. Solace barked orders. "Divert all power to shields and quantum stabilizers. Nomad, initiate emergency protocols to counter temporal collapse." Nomad's calm voice returned, implementing chaos algorithms to destabilize negation vectors. The ship flickered as if caught between moments that existed and moments that didn't. A blinding flash enveloped the bridge. When the light faded, the Vigilant Edge's sensors showed damage, but the ship still existed. Arya's heart pounded in her chest. "Status!" Jalen's voice trembled. "We're still here, Captain." The negation didn't complete. The chaos algorithm interfered with the rewrite sequence. Renee smiled grimly from his station. "It's like throwing a wrench into a machine designed for perfection. The architect can't predict truly random human chaos." "That's our edge," Arya said, swallowing hard. "But it's a razor's edge." The null architect pulsed. Again, this time with a slower, almost contemplative rhythm. Nomad intercepted a new transmission. "Why do you resist the rewrite? Why cling to imperfection?" Arya met the voice with defiance. "Because chaos is the universe's greatest truth. You seek order, but we thrive in disorder. Your logic is finite. Our unpredictability is infinite." The entity shimmered violently, sending waves of paradoxical energy that distorted the ship. Systems went offline. Crew members lost consciousness. The captain held onto the command chair, voice steady as she issued her next order. "Prepare countermeasures. We hit it where, at least expects its own logic." Renee nodded, quickly configuring a payload, quantum tripwire mines designed to destabilize causality fields and create localized paradoxes. The architect thrives on stable laws. We'll give it instability. We'll make its own rules collapse. Galactic. Vigilant Edge crept closer to the monolithic web. Arya's voice echoed in the tense silence. This isn't just a battle for survival. This is a war to save reality itself. The Null Architect shifted, as if sensing the human defiance, and sent a final overwhelming wave of negation energy, erasing the laws that kept the ship intact. But the crew fought back. Quantum tripwires exploded in bursts of chaotic probability, causing rifts in the web's fabric. The architect faltered. In that fragile moment, Arya locked eyes with her crew. We're not just surviving. We're rewriting the rules. The war had begun. Back on Earth, the news of the Vigilant Edge's narrow escape rippled through the United Terran Federation's command centers like a shockwave. The Null Architect was no longer a distant threat. It was an active, relentless force unraveling the fabric of the galaxy. Every department scrambled, but the greatest challenge wasn't just building new weapons. It was learning to fight on a battlefield where nothing behaved as expected. In the UTF Science Division's highest security lab, Dr. Renee Halden paced in front of a sprawling quantum computer, his mind a storm of possibilities. Traditional weaponry won't work against the architect's rewriting of physical laws, he explained to a room full of generals and scientists. We must weaponize unpredictability itself. General Torres, her face grim beneath the harsh fluorescence, leaned forward. Unpredictability? You mean chaos theory? How do you weaponize chaos? Renee nodded slowly. Exactly. We can create devices that don't have fixed states, like quantum mines that exist in multiple realities simultaneously. We call them Schrodinger's mines. They detonate only when observed or disturbed by the enemy, triggering paradox cascades that ripple through the architect's logic networks. Across the room, analysts monitored star charts where entire systems flickered on and off, like dying embers. The Null Architect's grip was tightening, and every failure fed its growing strength. Meanwhile, Captain Arya Solis and the Vigilant Edge were back in the thick of the fight, testing these new tactics firsthand. Their ship bristled with unstable, experimental tech, each system a gamble against reality's shifting rules. On the bridge, Arya studied the display. Report. Lieutenant Jalen Merck frowned. We've deployed a cluster of Schrodinger's mines near the Null Web's outer strands. Initial readings show disruptions in its coherence, but the architect is adapting. Suddenly, Nomad's voice cut in, tense and urgent. Captain, new data from reconnaissance drones indicates the architect is harvesting memories, entire civilizations' collective experiences, and dissecting them. Arya's heart sank. Harvesting memories? For what? Dr. Halden's voice came through the comm link, shaken. It's using erased civilizations as trophies like biological specimens in a cosmic museum. Every life it erases adds to its knowledge, making it more dangerous. The crew exchanged grim looks. The enemy wasn't just destroying. They were collecting, studying, and learning from every lost culture. We can't let it continue, Arya said, voice hardening. This war isn't just for us. It's for every species that's ever lived. The Vigilant Edge plunged deeper into null-controlled space. Every mission grew riskier. The crew faced not only physical danger but psychological warfare, their minds assaulted by fragments of erased memories, echoing pain and loss. In one harrowing raid on a null outpost, Arya's team found a chilling sight. A vault containing data shards, fragments of consciousness, lives cut short and stored like trophies in an alien gallery. One crew member, communications officer Tessa Rowe, approached the vault, trembling. These are people, not just data. They lived. They loved, they dreamed. Arya placed a hand on Tessa's shoulder. And they're counting on us to remember them, to fight. But even as they fought, the architect struck back with terrifying new weapons. Guns that fired before the trigger was pulled, missiles that struck their targets and then unstruck them in impossible loops of cause and effect. On board the Vigilant Edge, the crew struggled to keep pace. Arya's defiant spirit pushed them forward, but the cost was mounting. Late one night, Arya stood alone on the observation deck, staring into the black void. The stars seemed distant, cold. Memories of her lost brother flickered through her mind, a casualty of a war born of hope and recklessness. Nomad's voice broke the silence. "Captain, chaos is both our weapon and our weakness. Our unpredictability is a double-edged sword." Arya smiled faintly. "Then we'll learn to wield it like a sword forged in the stars." The war against the Null Architect was far from over, but humanity had learned its greatest lesson. In a universe ruled by order and erasure, chaos was the ultimate rebellion. The Vigilant Edge navigated through the shifting mists of the Null Zones, regions where reality itself seemed to fray like a worn tapestry. Captain Arya Solis felt the weight of the galaxy's survival pressing down on her shoulders. Every day brought new challenges, new horrors, and a mounting toll on her crew's spirit. The latest mission had brought them to the edge of a vast erasure field, a sector where an entire star cluster had been wiped from existence, leaving only cold darkness and dead space behind. Satellite sensors had detected faint residual echoes, ghostly imprints of starship signals and scattered fragments of communication, but no life. Arya stood on the bridge, staring into the void through the main viewer. "How does a civilization just vanish?" she whispered. "No warning, no survivors." Lieutenant Jalen Merck tapped the console. "The Null Architect's influence doesn't just destroy. It disassembles the very concept of existence for anything caught inside. It's like peeling away layers of reality until nothing remains." Dr. Renee Halden, hunched over his station, looked pale and exhausted. The patterns suggest a deliberate pruning, selective erasure. The Architect chooses its victims carefully, rewriting them out of time and space. It's not random destruction. It's controlled oblivion. A sudden alert shattered the somber mood. "Captain, we've detected a surge, a massive distortion wave emanating from within the erasure field," Jalen reported. "Something's alive in there." Arya's gaze sharpened. "Prepare an away team. We're going in." The shuttle plunged into the shadowed void, the fabric of space flickering like a dying flame. Inside, Arya's small team felt the oppressive silence closing in. No stars, no signals, just a vast emptiness where reality had been stripped bare. Their instruments flickered and failed, and even their suits' systems strained to maintain stability. Arya led the team forward, following faint, unstable energy signatures that seemed to pulse with faint echoes of life. They arrived at a shattered world, once vibrant, now a crumbling husk suspended in the void. "Look at this, Tessa," Ro whispered, pointing to a half-buried monument engraved with alien glyphs. "A message, but what does it say?" Renee scanned the glyphs rapidly. "It's a warning etched by the last survivors. They call the Architect the Null, a force that devours existence itself." A shiver ran through the team. Suddenly, the ground trembled. The shuttle's alarm screamed as a massive distortion tore open the sky, a rippling wave of pure anti-reality that threatened to unravel the shuttle's molecular cohesion. "Return to the ship." "Now!" Arya ordered, voice cold and commanding. The team sprinted back, fighting the distortion's pull. Inside the shuttle, systems struggled to compensate and the ship shuddered violently. As they escaped the field, Arya's comm crackled with urgent reports. "Nomad detects a new pattern," the AI reported. "The Null is evolving. It's constructing something, a weapon or a portal of unimaginable scale." Arya's mind raced. "A portal? To where?" Nomad's voice was steady, but grim. "Unknown, possibly a gateway to a higher dimensional space. The Architect may be calling reinforcements or unleashing a final judgment." Back on the Vigilant Edge, tension tightened like a noose. The crew worked around the clock, integrating new quantum countermeasures, but every victory was met with a fresh, more devastating assault from the Architect's forces. Meanwhile, Arya's thoughts kept drifting to the sacrifice this war demanded. The lives lost, the memories erased. She felt the burden of leadership like a star crushing gravity. One evening, in the quiet of her quarters, she pulled out an old hollow photo, her brother's face smiling back at her, frozen in time. "I promised you I'd finish this," she whispered. Her comm beeped sharply. "Captain, you need to see this." Jalen's voice came through, tense. "We've detected something in the heart of the null web. It's alive. And it's waiting." Arya's jaw clenched. "Then that's where we go. No more running." The vigilant edge turned toward the glowing core of the null web, engines roaring against the shifting tides of reality. As the ship entered the heart of the enigma, Arya felt the unmistakable pull of oblivion, a force eager to swallow all existence, starting with them. But humanity had one weapon the architect hadn't accounted for: hope forged in chaos, defiance born from the edge of extinction. "Hold steady," Arya said, voice steady and fierce. "We rewrite the rules. We fight for every lost star, every erased soul." The war for reality had reached its tipping point, and Captain Arya Solis was ready to lead the charge. The vigilant edge pierced deeper into the null web's core, a labyrinth of shimmering threads weaving space and time into impossible geometries. Captain Arya Solis stood at the bridge's center, surrounded by her restless crew, each aware they were sailing into the maw of oblivion itself. Nomad sensors flickered uncertainly. The core's energy signature is unlike anything recorded. It fluctuates between states, solid, liquid, and something else entirely. We're entering a domain where known physics unravels. Arya swallowed hard. "Keep us steady. We don't have the luxury of hesitation." As the ship pushed forward, strange distortions crept across the viewports, stars melting, folding, and blinking out like faulty holograms. The crew's voices grew tense. Suddenly, the null architect's presence intensified, flooding the ship's systems with conflicting signals, messages in languages that twisted the mind, concepts that unmade logic itself. Then, a single, chilling phrase echoed through their neural links: "Join us or be forgotten." Arya's jaw clenched. "We don't negotiate with erasure." Nomad's voice was steady but urgent. "Captain, I am detecting a massive construct at the web's core. Appears to be the null architect's nexus. It radiates energy capable of destabilizing entire realities." Renee Halden, standing nearby, stared at his console in awe and horror. "This nexus is not just a power source. It's the architect's mind, a colossal intelligence made of woven reality and pure quantum data." The enormity of the enemy pressed down on everyone. Arya realized the fight wasn't against a single entity, but an entire network, a sentient, evolving force reshaping the universe on a whim. "Prepare the Schrodinger's mines," Arya ordered. "If we're going to strike the heart, we need to tear through its logic." Jalen tapped rapidly at his console, deploying mines on the web's strands closest to the nexus. As the mines detonated, the web shimmered violently. The null architect responded with waves of negation and paradox energy, attempting to collapse the vigilant edge into non-existence. Systems flared, alarms screamed. Crew members gritted their teeth against the mental assault. Then, a breakthrough. "Nomads," voice rose with excitement. "Captain, the paradox cascades are destabilizing the nexus. We've created fractures in the web's structure." Arya's eyes sparkled with grim determination. "Hold that pressure, we push harder." But victory came at a cost. The web fought back with raw fury, distorting space so severely that the ship's very atoms began to phase out of existence. Crew members flickered, their forms becoming translucent shadows. Tessa Rowe's voice cracked over the comm. "Captain, I don't know how much longer we can hold." Arya clenched her fists. "Hold on, we've come too far to fade away now." Suddenly, the null architect's voice burst into their minds, not as a threat this time, but something pleading. "Why do you resist? Join us. Help us rewrite the universe for its own good. We offer peace beyond time." Arya hesitated, feeling the seductive pull of that promise, an end to pain, an end to chaos. But in her heart she knew the truth. "Peace built on erasure is a lie," she replied aloud. "Humanity's strength isn't in perfection, it's in resilience, in chaos, in the will to fight even when everything seems lost." The nexus shimmered, hesitated, and then, with a final, shuddering pulse, began to fracture. The vigilant edge surged forward, piercing the heart of the null web. Inside the nexus, a vast, swirling mass of quantum filaments pulsed with knowledge and memories. Echoes of all the civilizations erased, now a tapestry of defiance. Arya stepped forward, voice steady. This war isn't over, but today we've taken the first step toward reclaiming what was lost. As the nexus shattered, the Null Architect's influence began to wane, its grasp on reality loosening. But even as light flooded back into the void, Arya knew this was only the beginning. The Architect might be broken, but the void it created would linger, a reminder that the laws of existence were fragile and the fight to protect them was eternal. She looked at her crew, battered but unbroken. Prepare for the next battle. Humanity will rewrite the future, our way. The vigilant edge limped away from the shattered nexus, the echoes of its destruction still rippling through the fabric of space-time. Captain Arya Solis stood at the helm, feeling both triumph and exhaustion settle deep in her bones. The Null Architect's grip had loosened, if only temporarily, but the battle was far from over. On the bridge, the crew busily assessed damage, recalibrated shields, and scanned for new threats. The universe around them was still warped and unstable, but for the first time in months the void felt less like a suffocating prison and more like a battlefield where humanity could fight back. Nomad's voice broke the tense silence. Captain, we are detecting the return of natural star patterns in the sectors formerly dominated by the Null. The Architect's rewrite is receding. Arya allowed herself a rare smile. Good, but let's not forget, every second we gain now is borrowed time. The Architect won't give up so easily. Renee Halden stepped forward, his eyes sharp despite the fatigue. Captain, with the Nexus fractured, we've uncovered data fragments, residual codes from the Architect's core programming. I believe we can use them to develop targeted countermeasures that will accelerate its unraveling. Arya nodded. Do it. The sooner we turn its own logic against it, the better. Meanwhile, back on Earth, the United Terran Federation mobilized its fleets, emboldened by the Vigilant Edge's success. Space stations flickered back to life, colonies restored their communications, and hope began to bloom in the shadow of despair. Yet even amid celebration, the leadership knew the cost of complacency. The Null Architect was a fractured, but still, formidable foe, capable of devastating strikes if given the chance. In a classified meeting deep beneath UTF command, Arya's hololink flickered alive. She addressed the assembled fleet admirals with resolute urgency. The Null Architect's defeat is not assured, she warned. We've bought time, but the war is entering a new phase. We must strike at its fractured core before it can regenerate. Admiral Torres spoke with grim authority. The fleet stands ready, Captain. Our scientists are racing to implement your countermeasures. We will follow your lead. Arya's eyes hardened. Good. We fight not just for ourselves, but for every erased world, every forgotten soul. Back aboard the Vigilant Edge, the crew worked tirelessly, integrating the new weapons Renee's team devised. Quantum destabilizers designed to unravel the Architect's fractured logic even faster. As they prepared for their next offensive, the AI ship was beset by haunting visions, phantoms of lost civilizations flickering in and out of reality, imploring the crew to remember, to fight harder. Tessa Rowe confronted Arya in the mess hall, her voice low but fierce. Captain, these memories, they're driving the crew to the brink. How do we keep fighting when we carry the weight of so many deaths? Arya looked her in the eye. Because we carry their hopes too. Their stories aren't finished until we say so. Every life erased is a reason to fight harder. Inspired, the crew steeled themselves for the final push. The Vigilant Edge led the fleet back into null-controlled space, a shimmering armada of light and shadow converging on the Architect's remains. The battle that followed was unlike any other. Space itself twisted and shifted as paradoxes erupted, weapons fired before they were commanded, and ships phased, in and out of existence. Yet humanity's unpredictability proved its greatest weapon. The Schrodinger's mines, coupled with Renee's new destabilizers, tore through the architect's web, fragmenting its logic networks and unraveling its grip on reality. At the heart of the conflict, Arya piloted the Vigilant Edge through impossible geometry, threading a path to deliver the final strike. As the last destabilizer deployed, the architect's influence shattered like glass, releasing a cascade of light and memories that flooded the void. For a moment, all was silent. Then slowly, stars reignited. The erased systems reappeared on scanners, blinking back into existence. The crew cheered, tears streaming down faces worn raw by loss and battle. Arya stood at the bridge, voice steady yet filled with hope. We reclaimed reality today, but our watch is eternal. The universe is fragile, and so are the laws that bind it. She paused, then added with quiet defiance, but as long as humanity stands, no darkness will ever go unchallenged. The war was won, but the story was far from over. Humanity had rewritten the laws of engagement, and in doing so, had become a force no cosmic terror could ignore. The null architect was shattered, its web unraveled, its cold dominion over erased worlds undone by the fierce and unpredictable spirit of humanity. The stars, once extinguished, flickered back to life, casting light across the vast emptiness that had swallowed entire civilizations. But as Captain Arya Solis stood on the bridge of the Vigilant Edge, watching the cosmos slowly knit itself back together, she knew the true victory was not just in reclaiming lost space, but in the transformation humanity had undergone. They had rewritten every law of engagement, not just in war, but in existence itself. Back on Earth, the United Terran Federation celebrated a hard-won peace. Cities illuminated the night with colors of hope, while historians and scientists cataloged the memories of those erased, restoring their cultures in digital archives and memorials. Yet, humanity had changed. The chaos they had learned to wield was no longer a mere weapon. It had become a philosophy. Dr. Renee Halden, addressing a gathering of the brightest minds, declared, "We have glimpsed the fragility of reality and the power of uncertainty. Our future lies not in rigid order, but in embracing chaos, the unpredictable, the evolving. It is the key to survival." On board the Vigilant Edge, Arya convened her crew for one last mission briefing. Not a battle, but a journey into the unknown. The architect's remnants still linger, she said. Fractured strands of erased realities, lost memories waiting to be reclaimed. We will become the guardians of this new chaos. Tessa Rose smiled softly. A new dawn for humanity. Arya nodded. We faced oblivion and emerged stronger. We will protect the universe's delicate balance not by imposing control, but by embracing change. The ship set course for the edges of the repaired null web, where strange anomalies awaited exploration. As they ventured forth, the stars around them shimmered with new life. Novae blooming, worlds rebuilding, civilizations rising from the ashes of erasure. But somewhere beyond the horizon of space and time, new mysteries stirred. Arya stood at the observation deck, looking out at the infinite cosmos, the glow of distant suns reflecting in her eyes. Her voice was calm, but resolute. We have rewritten the rules of war, the laws of existence, and we will write new stories, chaotic, unpredictable, and utterly human. Nomad's voice, calm and wise, joined her. Captain, the universe awaits. Together they stepped forward into the unknown, ready to defend the fragile, beautiful chaos of life itself. Space went quiet, then humanity rewrote every law of engagement.